Barbara was the only one left unbothered by the terror of a small rural town. They worshipped her. A weeping hillside angel and a wheat field North Jutland queen. It was in the merry month of May. Cadaver lamps were roaming, disappearing between overgrown moss graves. A frightened lady dressed in white linens, a disturbed, freckled farm boy, a fishmonger with no fish left to sell. It will be poultry today, poultry tomorrow, poultry gone bad and poultry full of germs. A town full, all bothered by an unknown wisp of wind. Every week Barbara's mother would let out a wild and vicious mink to chase down Barbara through the fields and the forest until her legs gave up, and she lay herself down to sleep, down in whichever patch of grass she fell into. Everyone in her small town would go hunt down poor Barbara and carry her back to her bed. The town worshipped Barbara, saying she was special even when she cried. But sweet Barbara never wanted any of the love that they all gave away to her. The rural townsfolk kept the hills alive by dancing round in circles, in the light shine of the midnight sun. Bonfires at celebration, where they burn up handmade witch dolls, stuffed with hay, sending them far away to Bloxburg. Townsfolk searched for their beast in the wild-grown hay. To their sudden surprise, something or someone had taken off their heads. Yet they still heard the echoes of hoofs in the far distance. In solidarity, horse riders decapitated their fine horses to show them mercy, for whoever did this should suffer. While some tied nuts to the live vipers, believing they thrived better bonded, food mother of the tame viper had deemed herself Viper Queen of North Jutland, a title that didn't sit well with other local residents, in awe and enchanted by the one and only sweet Barbara's charm. Barbara had experienced a sorrow like no other. Barbara had never known a love as true as the first girl who held her hand, frail Molly of the Watton Sea, who fell ill and died in the arms of sweet Barbara, died of a fever that had spread through the town like wildfire. No one could save her. It broke Barbara's heart and her mind. Barbara begged for the fever to take her too, sharing her lover's grave, but it never did catch on to her. Love after love, Barbara found her another lost soul. The last girl was a roving gambler, frightfully tall and handsome, a fickle bushwhacker. After claiming undying love to Barbara for 14 whole nights, she left the town. And she left Barbara, her still grieving bunny lover, never looked back, never wrote one letter. Broken-hearted and full of woe, all Barbara wanted to do was to run away. A remote church in the wildwood. Royal heirs had seized the property and closed it down to religious folks, after a murder had occurred on the church floors. The royal heirs said not in God's house after all this nonsense. Another local church had long burned down. Long Magrethe with her 12 vicious sons was to blame for the murder and the burning of the chapel. She'd always had a twisted outlook on everyone's beloved Barbara. A man named Crow had an evil, thieving daughter. She first did steal Barbara's late lover's pig from the pigsty, and then she transferred the deadly putrid fever that took over her life. Woman-hating fathers burned their daughters in the family oven, the ones that were small and slender. But Barbara never had a father, no one to do such to her. While the surviving children of the oven-eager men wept, so did poor Barbara. One-eyed Cristopher wanted to take Barbara's hand. He said to make you mine. But this was not in sweet Barbara's mind, and she ran away. Far away to the hillside forest to weep her long-lost lovers. Barbara here spoke to real crows. She spoke to all birds, and she even spoke to the urgent owl who watches us day and night. At daybreak, the fields and the forest frantic Barbara roamed, drifting away from the mass of the poor folks' town, who all loved her so dearly. Searched the thickets, the roads, and the grasslands telling, seeking the silhouette of her true love, never fully catching up to her. The town feared their darling had lost their poor mind. On the midst of her weeping walk in the Jutland hills, Barbara heard a sweet, old, and familiar melody coming from the very lake she in another life roamed with her once true love. Not one could convince Barbara that this was not a calling, longing for sign and existence. Sheeps roaming the lakeside, snakes in the grass, owls in the far distance, as the only onlookers. A shadow of doubt playing a weeping violin appears, reappears, and disappears from the deep northern lake in the shape of her sick lover girl, and the violin that plays weeping a tone leads sweet Barbara to her drowning death. Poor Barbara's body was never found, yet her cries are still heard in the Jutland hills. The deep lake lies waiting and somber, and in chance they'll drag anyone who roams the forest in search of Barbara, anyone who's experienced heartache like no other, attune at dragging shattered sweethearts down the lake where on the bottom she lies. For wild mortal nixie of the lake, shifting darling love to slumber, it would tempt a poor minded soul. This deep lake was a suicider's grave.